the period where it was dark, and how did you actually get out of it? What were the daily rituals you took?
Your brain is your biggest enemy, and it's full of negative self-talk, and I'm drinking and I'm taking drugs and I'm doing all of these things. I'm having fun, but I'm being terrible about myself the next day. And then I'm going into work feeling awful. My anxiety's really, really high because of all of these choices that I'm making that are just keeping me in the same pattern. And once I'd heard that, I was like, okay, cool. So if you're not, then how can you change your brain? And that's where I came onto neuroplasticity, and I was learning about, very simply, neuroplasticity is just about the choices that you deliberately make. This is so uncomplicated. The choices you deliberately make will impact the way your brain is shaped, the way you think, and the way you will travel through life. And the way to do that, and this is like, again, the thing that I'm so passionate about with people, is your inputs drive all of your outputs. I just made such a great conscious choice to make sure that my inputs really started driving my outputs. And guess what? By suddenly just seeing positive stuff on social media, following positive people, seeing positive information, very quickly I just became a positive person. Things became positive because my inputs were driving my outputs.
One of my favorite statements that I refer to often now is, what you appreciate appreciates.
Yep.
And that is for good or for bad.
Totally.
So whatever you're appreciating, whatever you're giving attention to, will rise. Dan, welcome to the Intelligent Change podcast. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
I am excited to just hang out with you, Alex. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, and this is why this is going to be an epic podcast, because anytime we have conversations, we have lots of fun. And there's so many topics that I want to cover with you that will be so important to anybody listening. Because as we're saying now, the conversation we're just having about who is somebody that inspires you the most, because I believe, I've had the opportunity to meet incredible founders, entrepreneurs, and what I've realized is that everyone's human. There's no perfection. There's no such thing as this person's got to figure it out, because this whole idea of life is figuring it out and being on this journey of change and intelligent change. This is why we're here today, really speaking to you about your journey of intelligent change. However, first question is, who inspires you the most at the moment?
Okay, so at the moment, the simple answer is a guy called Jake Humphrey. So as I was mentioning to you, he's the host of a very popular podcast called High Performance. He's now turned that into a suite of podcasts. They've now got 6 or 7 top podcasts in the high performance stack. But he also runs a production company. They're doing phenomenally well, arguably the most successful production company in the UK. And the reason is because he was originally a presenter on CBBS or something, and then the BBC, and then a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. And at the peak of his career, he got given the top presenting job when BT bought all the sports rights in Europe for the Champions League and everything else. They got him to be the lead presenter, and he was the lead presenter at F1. And he had basically the coolest jobs in sport, and decided that because his family was in Norfolk, he built this beautiful home in Norfolk, his kids were in school, were in Norfolk, and this required him to go to London all the time, every day basically. He was just spending all of his time on the train, and he was away from his family, and he decided to quit it all and start again. And even though, yes, the podcast and stuff and the company is all in London, he's doing that 1 day a week, not 7 days a week. And so he really chose to just be with his family. I think that is such an unbelievably unappreciated high integrity move, because and I've met his wife, and she's great. They're really fun couple to hang out with, but they're just such normal people. They're so obviously still in love. They enjoy hanging out with each other, and he doesn't talk about it. It's not a virtue signaling move. He's obviously just done it because it's a totally authentic choice. She doesn't strike me as the type of woman that would even ask him to. So I think it just feels super authentic that he realized what would actually make him happy. And one of the things I have absolutely learned, as I'm sure you will as well, having done 400 interviews on my own podcast, which doesn't exist anymore, which is something that I walked away from. But 400 plus interviews, you get unbelievably smart people that you respect tell you about their regrets and mistakes. And there's so much pattern recognition. And if you are, like I have been, young enough that none of these big life decisions have really had to face you yet in your life, you can start to pattern recognize in your own life when they're sort of coming up and facing you in your own life and be like, do I want to fall into the same trap that actually isn't just one person that told me, it's hundreds of people that kept telling me this was a legit regret that they can't undo? And do I want to course correct and make sure that I don't make that mistake? And so because I do think a lot about living a purpose in line with my own values and the way that I see integrity, meeting someone who did all that at the right moment and walked away from so much to do that, I find genuinely inspiring. And also because like so many of the other conversations you have are the other end of inspiring, right? Like, yes, I sold for $1 billion, and yes, I'm really successful. I'm a nice person, and like, all, yeah, like all of this stuff is great. None of that is to diminish any of that. These people are really inspiring their own way, but not many of them would admit to having a sort of self-awareness of realizing that there's possibly more to life than just business. And I think that's sometimes where the challenge is.
Yeah, and this is the reason why I brought it up, because the reason I enjoy having these conversations with you is that you think about these things. You are aware to design your life with intention.
Yeah.
And part of that, as you said, you had a podcast and you've done hundreds of episodes, and you decided to, you know what, it's time to quit. And can you walk us through even that decision as well of, because you did all the right things, you're super consistent. I'm on the beginning of this journey, right? This is like,
it's always fun. It's always fun at the beginning. To be fair,
yeah,
everything is fun at the beginning.
Yeah, but to be you've done it for years and you kept really consistent, and to then have that awareness to, you know what, actually it's okay to quit now. So can you walk us through that decision that you made for yourself in regards to how it aligns with designing your life with that intention?
Yeah. So at least once a year, I try and go to something called Unplugged. Are you familiar with Unplugged?
No.
So it is a business, very simple. They have cabins. You should totally do a partnership with them. It's perfect for you guys. They have cabins all over the UK and now Spain. So they're growing quite a lot. And the premise is you put your phone away for 3 days and you go into this cabin and you have food, you have a toilet. Well, you bring food, but you have a stove, you have a fridge, you have a toilet, you have a bed. It's quite basic, but it's like, it's enough. A fire. And you're there for 3 days without your phone. They give you a little Nokia, like to text anyone in case of emergency. But other than that, you're just like, phone's locked away, no internet, no laptop, just me and my thoughts, some open air, some grass, some cows over there. Kind of like, okay, what am I doing? And after like a few hours, the noise in your head kind of goes away and you start to feel really clear-headed. You get this enormous dopamine spike of just from the pure basis that you haven't been checking your phone every few minutes or responding to work emails. And the other nice thing about it, by the way, is because you go through this process, you're telling people in advance, I'm going to something completely offline for a few days. So don't even bother contacting me, which is great because you've got no FOMO. Usually you go to a hotel, people are like, no, they know you're on holiday, but your friends will still message you and shit. And so you're still getting the spike, you're still messaging, responding. There's just none of that. So you're like clearing the decks. You just sit there and I bring paper and I just write loads of notes, whatever's coming out in my head, do some of the, classic, what's the book? I've read it this year, actually, annoyingly, not Creative Act. Oh, is it Creative Act? Morning Pages.
Morning Pages.
Is the book called Creative Act?
Yeah. James. Yeah.
So
Julie Cameron, I believe.
Julia Cameron, yeah, exactly. So you do your Morning Pages process. You have a bit longer than 3 minutes because you've got nothing else to do. But you're just like flushing all the ideas out. And then through this process, I spend time thinking, okay, what do I want to do in my life this year? And one thing that I do intentionally every year, like I learned years ago that resolutions didn't work for me. But actually one big change, one big intentional change, I need an anchor point to come back in my life. And I need to think about what that word is going to be for me over this year. The power of choosing one word for a year means that A, you can stay consistent. B, usually if you do a resolution, it's like interesting for you in January, February, March, but by April you're kind of done with it. But a word for the year is like a really great, powerful growth tool because you can keep coming back to it throughout the year and you can keep sense checking if what you're doing is actually in line with the word. And so that process enables me to then think through what other decisions I'm making and how they feel like they're in line with my life. And just to give you a couple of examples, like, never really cared about money, but a few years ago I was having a daughter. So I was like, well, I'm actually quite financially illiterate. For a business person, I'm quite financially illiterate. I have no sense of personal finance or understanding money, really, because I just put everything in my businesses and I just invest willy-nilly and I'm just like a vibes guy. I'm like, oh, it'll all come back in the end. That's totally fine when you're looking after
Me too, I'm the
yourself.
same.
Yeah. And when you're looking after yourself, it's all good. I'm like, karma will sort me out, but karma is not going to fucking like help you out when you're a dad. So, and also like, the risk reward levels, there's just a responsibility, right? You're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't behave like Peter Pan about this one thing. So I made finance my word for the year, and it was just super helpful because it just meant that I did things that when they came up in my life, someone would send an email around a group and be like, oh, hey, I'm doing this like money workshop thing. And then the old me would be like, fuck that. And, this year I was like, oh, yeah, I'd like to go to that, please. And I pick up a book, the art, psychology of money and like, just different things where I see them in the bookshop and I'm like, oh yeah, my word for the year is money. That's helpful. Look, over the course of a year, I got a fucking amazing education and like just understanding personal finance, and I've made much better decisions in my life since. I feel kind of stupid I didn't do these things earlier, but it's a really good example of how having a word can help your attention in life gravitate towards things that you've consciously chosen as important for your life this year that would otherwise just pass you by.
Yeah.
You can't be aware of everything, and so having that really focused in, and it's not distracting because it's just one word.
It's interesting that you bring it up because in one of our best-selling products called the Best Year Journal,
Yep.
that is exactly how we started off. So it's
one
like,
word.
what is your word for the year? And everything that you're saying is also connects to this belief that we have around a lot of the products that we design for intelligent change.
Simplicity.
Which is simplicity, however, also the science behind it. And that's one of the things we'll speak about also about your company, Heights, is not just how these products work, but what is the actual science behind these products? Is it, okay, am I just taking supplements and I'm pissing them out? Or am I just writing these words and where do they go? And so everything that you're saying in regards to like having this word of, let's say, money or finance, you're then activating your reticular activating system. Have you heard of this term?
Only from you.
Yeah, so RAS, I love it, and there's so much about it that we connect to intelligent change because it's a simple part of your brain that once you activate it, let's say with that word, you then start seeing it. So before, as you said, someone says, hey, let's go to this finance money workshop. You're like, I don't care. But all of a sudden now
Or
you
didn't
do,
even see the email because you just passed by it.
or you didn't see the email, but now you do because it brings to your attention. Even this morning, one of my friends from Dubai is staying over as a guest, and I opened my fridge and I had this like probiotic supplement, and it had a certain name. And he's like, "Oh wow, that name!" It was nothing related to actually the supplement, but he's in that industry and he connected to it.
Yep.
And so, and this is the way I believe our world all around us. There's so much information, and this is why your brain needs focus, and also why sometimes you need to guide it and tell it what to do.
100%.
But take us back to expanding on, getting to why did you play your podcast?
The classic meandering. So there I was wondering what the hell I'm going to have this year. Now I was having a daughter, and I realized that I want to be a great dad. And I already think I am a great dad because I am really conscious at it and I really enjoy it, which is the most important part. It took me a good couple of years. I certainly did not enjoy the first 2 years, the first time round, like at all. And I found it fucking annoying when everyone was like, isn't being a dad so magical? And I was like, maybe for you. But from 2, like it was more my kind of vibe. Like, I can act like a toddler sometimes, and the fucking chaos vibes and stuff. I loved it. It was great. So she's definitely been my best friend since 2. But I was just like aware, right? It's chaotic having a child. I'm gonna have another one. Oh my God. Like, can I really consciously say that I'm gonna be the best dad I can be if I already know I'm so busy and I have so many other things in my life? Am I actually making space in my life to consciously know that I'm doing that? And so I just looked at the things I have in my life and I was like, basically bringing, like for argument's sake, let's call it a project. I bring a new project into my life and I have loads of projects in my life, right? So logically, if I'm already kind of one of the things most people say about me is I'm like the busiest person that they know. Like, how are you so busy? You're like everywhere, you do all these things. Like 5 years ago, I used to think that was a great compliment. Now I'm like, oh God, that's so triggering. It's fucking true. And it's not in line with how I'd like to be. Everyone smart knows that that isn't a good recipe for any quality, right? And I'm now at a maturity level where I'd rather focus on quality over quantity. So I was like, I'm going to have to remove something in my life. So, I considered removing my first daughter. My wife, obviously had to start there. But sadly, like they're sticking around. So I was like, my cats, no, I kind of want to keep them. And so, you get to like, okay, I've got 3 businesses. What is the one that I care about the least emotionally? And actually, when it all comes down to it, the interviewing game, it was something that I have had so much benefit from in my life. Like, it's made me a more confident speaker, a much more curious person, all of the things. It's wonderful. And I've met amazing people, right? Like, it's an incredible, as you know, it's an amazing relationship builder and adds value to your life. All that being said, the absolute love and passion I once had for it is not there anymore. It's starting to feel like a job. I also had a team, had 7 people, a studio, like you saw it, all of the stuff, like it's just overheads and stuff, and they all take up mental capacity. So just like, you know what? Of all the things, it's a profitable business as well. So no investors. It was the one where I felt like I had the most agency to be like, you know what? I could do a really high integrity move here and shut down a business profitably, let go of everyone in a really respectful way, like pay them all out, like whatever they want to get paid out, like, X many months, not have to worry about it, get out of all my contracts. Like, we've got money in the bank, it's just money. And still have money left over at the end, but like leave something at the top rather than fail it. And, that classic, like, know when it's time to leave. I was like, maybe this is just, the signs are just opening up, it's time to leave. And I really felt like in that cabin, they always say, if you've ever done ayahuasca, they always say, now, when you get home from this experience, like with integration, don't make any sudden decisions because you're going to need some time to like let it integrate. But they don't say that about being on your own in a cabin in the woods. So I just came straight out and fired everyone because I was like, I know that if I fire everyone, then that's like an irreversible decision ultimately. I'll obviously have to explain my reasons and my rationale, and it's people's jobs, and I'll find them other jobs. I've actually done that, and actually, like, everyone's in a great place and got awesome careers. So everyone was happy in the end, and I kind of knew they would be, as you know about this space. It's a popular space. So, popular space where people with skills can get jobs quite easily. So I wasn't that worried about that side of it. But I was like, I need to just make this decision whilst it feels so in line with my values, whilst I've got a clear head. Whilst I'm not interrupted with work problems and then friends and then social life and stuff, I've had 3 days to think, and this was my decision. Let's just follow through with it. And absolutely no regrets. Like, I've not had a moment of thinking like, fuck, I wish I was still doing it. I've had loads of people reach out to me and be like, why'd you do that? I love that podcast and all that stuff, which is just more validating, right? It's great. It's like, I feel quite proud to have left on a high.
Yeah. And
It's
I was one of your last guests, so I feel.
I think you were our actual last guest, and I did that quite intentionally. You weren't the last guest I interviewed, but if I'm not mistaken, I think we put you literally last because it's all about gratitude.
Thank
so it was
you.
a super intentional choice. And I think it's like a really lovely bookend to like a journey because, the power of gratitude completely changed my life. I remember being an incredibly depressed person and really, really struggling with my mental health in general in my 20s. And everything I was trying wasn't working. And I had a friend who, do you know Azim Mazar? This seems like the kind of guy you'd know. But anyway, he was like, I was opening up to him about my mental health and everyone, to be honest, because I was never like ashamed of it. I was just like, fucking depressed is so boring. I don't really know what's wrong with me. And he was like, there's this guy doing this talk at the Welcome Center today. Why don't you go and see him? He's like one of the founding fathers of psychology. It could be really interesting. His name's Martin Seligman. And I was like, never fucking heard of this guy, but all right, whatever, let me go. I go there. Obviously, now with all the context, I realize that is literally like seeing the rock star of the whole entire movement, but didn't know. And obviously, I go there. Have you ever heard him talk?
No.
He's the most miserable fucker in the world. He's like famously miserable. He's like, oh, and then we like, discovered this thing, and then we took the whole movement to Bhutan, and then Bhutan was really pleased with the results. You're like, Jesus Christ, you're the guy who fucking proved that gratitude was a thing? Anyway, so it was really funny. But anyway, this whole day with him, and he was also the teacher for Angela Duckworth. So she was like a grad student in his class. And that day, I bought his books on like essentially modern psychology and positive psychology. And all of positive psychology is basically about the art of gratitude, the scientific evidence of a gratitude practice. And because it was just there, I bought Grit. And those two books had just an immense, profound effect on me. Really changed my life. I enrolled online he has like an online term that you can do on positive psychology and get a diploma from the University of Pennsylvania. So I did that, and it was really, really, really great. And this actually all ended up cottoning me on to like 5-minute journal. Like, he obviously talks about journaling so much. I was looking, and it's one of those products that was like at the right time, probably around the same time I discovered Tim Ferriss and all of that kind of stuff. So because this like process of gratitude had such an immense effect on me, and I still do my gratitude practice every single day. Because of all of that, in my head, when I had the opportunity to interview you and all of that stuff, I was like, that's such a fitting way for me. I don't need to overdo the reasons why to the audience, but gratitude is something that changed my life. You're basically Mr. Gratitude. Well, Martin Seligman was busy, and you're much friendlier. So,
I love that. Thank you so much. That's what I'm going for. Is just establishing myself as Mr. Gratitude.
Mr. Gratitude is great.
Recently actually, there's gonna be
You should do a Mr. Men book.
Oh yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Gratitude. That'd be fucking great. Mr. Grateful, I guess it would be.
There's a few touch points that I'm excited to dive in with you. However, on this point, I want to dive a little deeper on, right now, obviously, you have 2 children, a wife. There's a lot of a business that is growing. There's a lot of things that are challenging to you. And as you just said, sometimes you have to make the decision of letting some things go to allow yourself to have the time to focus on what is important in your life.
Yeah.
And at the same time, take us back to this period where you felt depressed. How did you become aware of it? And what were your first steps outside of just attending this one kind of talk or workshop? What were the actual daily rituals that you started doing and practicing? Because what I believe in is you don't change your life through one talk or to filling out your gratitude journal once and saying, hey, I'm grateful for it now, my life has changed.
No, for sure.
You had to actually take things. So if you could just take us through the period where it was dark and how did you actually get out of it? What were the daily rituals you took?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would imagine that my situation is very common for people. My dad died. So, there was an emotional trigger, not like there was a no reason trigger to be depressed. He was my best friend. We were so close. I just really struggled. And also, from a sense of purpose and way in the world, like my dad was spiritually and religiously Jewish, right? Like, as in, he believed in God, is the basic way of saying it. My mum is like Jewish but atheist, right? So she's not a believer. And I was more like her, always. My dad would drag me to synagogue, and I'd be like, oh, they're fucking what are they even saying? Why don't you just speak in bloody English so I can understand it? And I just always felt disconnected from it. As a result, I did not ever feel religiously connected to. Firstly, I'm anti-religion in all religions. I think all religions are fucking stupid. So
that's gonna be a big drop off in the podcast.
Sorry, but I put it this way. I think all religions are absolutely purposeful and have all the best intentions, and I know that to be true. But sadly, the point of religion would be to bring all people in humanity closer together. And as we all know, even get down to like Christianity, and then like you're like, oh, Catholicism's wonderful, but then Martin Luther's like, no, actually, I don't know, I protested these, let's be Protestants, and then Protestants are like, okay, cool, Protestants, and then Protestants are like, oh, I don't know, I'm Calvinist, I'm Lutheran, and it's like just fragmentation, 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 but like really, it's all the same shit. Like you believe that there's some divine power, and that we're all spiritually connected and we should look after each other. And there isn't any difference at all in Islam or Judaism or Buddhism or any of them. They're all about being a better human being and better connected in society. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, they all bloody argue with each other and instead cannot even in their own religions can't agree. Just look at the Middle East, like in the Muslim religion, in the Islamic religions, right? They don't even agree. So it's just like, it's so complicated. And obviously we all want world peace, but I feel like it gets in the way of it. So when I was growing up with my own religion, Judaism, I was like, seems as stupid as any of the other religions, frankly. And like, I therefore believed that if spirituality is seen or is experienced in your life via a religious practice, then, and you reject the religious practice, which I did, then I guess you're not spiritual. So like I basically grew up like semi-envious of my dad, who like totally believed in God, because I really did not, right? And so I would do these things for him because they made him happy, of course. And you know, I'd fast on Yom Kippur because I was fat, and I was like, ah, that seems helpful. But like other than that shit, I was just like, you know, I was really just doing it for my dad to be nice, but I was not involved or interested. So when he died, I found it very, very complicated because I was like, you know, he had so much faith, and actually so much went wrong for him so often in such a long time of his life, but he kept having faith. And then he died anyway. So I was like, okay, these are just even more entrenched beliefs now. Like, you know, there's no way that God would do all of these things to my father based on all of that stuff when he could do it to someone evil in prison and doesn't. So anyway, that was sort of like my mental model, right? So I think this nihilistic attitude to that loss, plus the loss of the only connection or rationale or the thing that might maybe give me some connection to a higher purpose in life, now gone as well. Not having any grounding to that whatsoever probably sent me in a bit of a spiral. And I am a very glass half full person. I always have been. So my friends really noticed this, and they tried to like get me back on track and tried to suggest things to me and all of this kind of stuff, because it was just so, and it went on for like 6 months. Which, you know, is a part of a grieving process anyway. So obviously people were quite patient, but they were also like, this is just like something so off with me. In the end, actually, a friend of mine was like, I was at dinner. It's actually one of those founders dinners many years ago. And someone just said like, you know, have you heard of ayahuasca? And I was like, and ayahuasca is a perfect example of what you were just saying, right? I was like, never heard of what you're talking about at all. Don't even know how to pronounce that or say it again. Anyway, I like sort of left, didn't think about it. And then suddenly, that word that I'd never heard in my life, everywhere. This is like 15 years ago or so, but it's just everywhere. Just started hearing it, like from people that I would never think would know it or anything like that. And my friend Rob was like, look, if you want to go and do this, I'll do it with you. We've got to do something for you. Like, got to do something. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I can't stay like this. So let's try it. I wasn't on antidepressants as well, which is like super crucial. I'm quite stubborn. I had been on antidepressants and I'd come off them. And you can't do psychedelics like that if you are on them. So I was like, you know what? If there was a time, I'm off them currently. Let's do it. So I did that. I did like a complete 180 on my beliefs. And I think what I learned with ayahuasca is you can have a deep sense of spiritual connection without religion. And that might seem extremely obvious, probably to your audience for sure, but it wasn't obvious to me. And I think for anyone that's listening that's grown up in any kind of religion, not that like we had to go, we didn't go to synagogue very often ever, right? Very liberal. But the point being, still that was our religion, and it's your race. And so like one way or another as well, when you're Jewish, it's kind of like, whether you believe it or not, you kind of are it regardless. So it's a bit of a weird one. I think like being able to completely disconnect from any pressure of religion at all and understand that I totally feel connected to something that's a higher power. And that higher power I would describe as just Mother Nature. It being profoundly logical to me. And also, I'm a very scientific person. So, um, almost all of my ayahuasca experience was based on seeing reincarnation happen, but from like soil and, precipitation becoming like, rain and creating clouds and creating like streams and all of this stuff. And you see like the cycle of nature happening and understanding that's reincarnation and being like, okay, I actually do believe in reincarnation. That's suddenly making me feel really connected to my dad, right? And that loss didn't feel final anymore. It's just something like light bulb went off in my head. And I suddenly became someone who, ever since the age of 24, so last 15 years, if you ask me what I believe in, I say Mother Nature. And if you ask me if I'm spiritual, I deeply, deeply, profoundly believe in all the things. And so now if someone's like, I'm Muslim, I'm Jewish, I'm Christian and stuff, like I always love to have a conversation with them about it. I don't immediately tell them that I hate their religion. But I love to have a conversation with them about it because actually as long as they're spiritually connected, I feel like I totally get what they're getting. I just
Mm,
don't need a label. But I think labels
mm,
can be super helpful for people. But where they can be really unhelpful is if they restrict your belief and understanding that there is a higher power without that label. Does that make
mm.
sense?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was always my big blocker. And so, you talk about like the process. For me, the process was like starting to believe that there's something more in life, having a sense of belief, um, and actually, then doing the work, the integration, right? So that stuff is like gratitude. And actually, the thing, if anyone ever asks me, like, if they're having mental health problems, because I've had quite a lot, haven't had any for years, thank God. I was going to say touch wood, and I noticed all the soft furnishings and the marble, so I thought I'll go for a different statement.
There's a frame around it.
Excellent, touch wood. The one thing I always say to people, the most important thing, is actually just get outside and go for a walk. That's probably the thing that changed my life the most, and maybe gratitude second. But like, actually, just get outside and go for a walk. It's unbelievably, I know this from living this experience myself, it's unbelievably easy to suddenly realize you just spent all day inside.
The way you can combine that, because the way I got into gratitude was through Tony Robbins.
Mm,
And what he recommended was go for a gratitude walk.
yes.
So you go outside in the park and
Yeah.
you say the things that you're grateful for,
Yeah. So nice.
that you have and you don't have.
Yeah.
So this is, and also to anybody listening, that's why I often say to people like, hey, you don't even have to do the, like, I'm not also religious about, my religion is not the 5-minute journal. And like, hey, you must do your 5-minute journal
What
every
is your
morning.
religion?
And
So I know what part of you I insulted.
no, I'm no, I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
like you.
Okay.
I'm spiritual.
Yeah.
I Mother Nature, deeply connected.
Yeah.
I
But
respect.
I wish that was in a weird way. I mean, I'm glad it's not a religion because then people would fight over the right version of it. But I wish that was such a better known thing. Like even the
Was
word spirituality, like, does give people the ick. It puts people off. And like Mother Nature, it's just so woo woo, but it's so intrinsically true. And I think it's kind of what we're all sort of trying to articulate.
at our summit, the first one, my friend Zach, he did this talk that there's a growing population that refer themselves as spiritual but not religious.
Yeah.
So it's a growing segment. And the thing that I just want to communicate on your practice of just, hey, going for a walk and how that can change your life, it is so practical and so powerful that especially now when people are working from home, oftentimes people don't even leave their homes all day.
Yep.
And I saw my own mental health deteriorate the moment I started actually working from home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, hey, you wake up and you just get the day started, and here you
Feels
go.
great at the start, doesn't it?
You think you're being like efficient and productive.
100%.
In reality, you're actually destroying yourself.
Yes.
And how important it is for us to be mobile, to in the morning get outside, look at the sky, ideally look at nature, look at the leaves. We have a deep connection because this is what we are part of. However, only recently in our history that we're now in these high-rise towers. I just flew in from Dubai yesterday, and I just think about, well, like, wow, it's like it's a reality for many people
Yeah.
living in these boxes in the sky that's air conditioned. If you don't get out of that, if you don't connect with ground and nature, yeah, you will feel disconnected.
$100%.
Your body will uh, disconnect from the source, which is Mother Nature itself,
Mm.
and how important it is. And anyways, just the last thought on, for me, the ritual that changed my life was doing a gratitude walk, going outside and being like, hey, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be able to walk, grateful to be able to see, and it sounds so silly.
Yeah.
And the other hack, even if it would be the 5 minute journal, or in this practice, is being grateful and saying out loud things that you're grateful for that you don't even have yet. Because as we touched upon in this conversation, you know, activating your articulating activating system. You did that with ayahuasca, right? You heard about it once, all of a sudden it starts appearing everywhere. Same thing with gratitude. When you activate your mind in regards to, hey, here's what I want to focus on, and that may be the things that I don't have yet, all of a sudden, if you activate it every day, you'll start noticing around you. You'll
Mm.
start people who are, let's say you want to be an entrepreneur, say, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I have my own business. And I would say this before I had my own business, before I had successful, I have an international business selling to people globally. That was not the truth. However, the point where I wanted to gravitate towards. And
Right.
now
Manifestation.
all my friends are founders, entrepreneurs, they all
Mm.
have, international businesses, and it's what I have become and have attracted to. It takes time. So for yourself, like I said, you had this big shift, obviously, with your father's death, which is, as you know, very similar to my
Yep.
story as well. And those moments of when we come across really the end, and the end can be not just for us, the end for somebody that is close in your life. We're able to also be voyeurs in that way. We experience death, and because that person that we had a deep connection is no longer there.
Yeah.
And it can go both ways, right? The way of like, hey, nihilistic, I told you God is not real because it wouldn't take my father, or this bad things would happen, and these bad things happen all the time. Hence, there's no point. However, as you said, you can then go on your life in this more kind of quite dark view, but you chose to take a different path. And as you said, you continue to keep taking that path. Why do you believe that is so important?
This is such a crucial point. This is one of my most fundamental beliefs because I had absolutely seen it exist in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my reading, when I came away from that thing, I discovered the art of neuroplasticity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never heard of these terms before, right? Again, in your life, when you're doing a thing and you have your hobbies and stuff, I was just a guy who was running a tech company, which was successful, but sort of didn't fulfill me in any kind of way. And it was mobile e-commerce. I had to read all the stuff on mobile e-commerce, and I don't give a shit about any of this stuff, but I don't have to because I'm speaking at conferences and on stage, and you're filling up your brain with mindless crap you don't like. And then sort of the other side of it is I grew up loving Arsenal. I'd go to Arsenal games and they'd lose, and I'd have my whole weekend ruined. And I'd drink beer and all of this stuff. It's nothing bad. Like a totally normal bloke, I guess, is my point, right? But kind of the cycle of what was I actually doing? I think back to that me at 23, 24, when I was in a depressed cycle. I was working really hard, and then on weekends I'd go and watch my favorite sports team with some friends, and then we'd all go drinking, and then I'd get home. I'd be really excited to watch Match of the Day, and just the most normal English bloke existence you can have. There's nothing wrong with that. However, it is a middling pattern of repetition, right? There's nothing purposeful or intentional or effortful about any of those decisions. They're all actually just comfort decisions. They're just easy things. I learned about neuroplasticity, having seen Martin Seligman and positive psychology and understanding that basically his premise is proving that the Freudian model is wrong and you're not stuck with the brain you're born with. as someone who is struggling with mental health problems, it's very helpful to hear you're not stuck with the brain you're born with, because your brain is your biggest enemy and it's full of negative self-talk, and I'm drinking and I'm taking drugs and I'm doing all of these things. I'm having fun, but I'm being terrible about myself the next day. And then I'm going into work feeling awful. My anxiety's really, really high because of all of these choices that I'm making that is just keeping me in the same pattern. And once I'd heard that, I was like, well, okay, cool. So if you're not, then how can you change your brain? And that's where I came onto neuroplasticity, and I was learning about, okay, very simply, neuroplasticity is just about the choices that you deliberately make. It's just so uncomplicated. The choices you deliberately make will impact the way your brain is shaped, the way you think, and the way you will travel through life, basically. Which sounds way more woo-woo than it is. It's basically like, hey, mate, pick up a fucking book and fill your brain with some insightful information that could actually help your life improve, and it will start to spark new little areas in your brain that will make you think about this and make you think about that. And I really suddenly felt like transformed, that if I was to create habits that deliberately took me in the direction of a person that I want to be, which is basically just someone who's happy and grateful and feels like they're on the right path, then I would over time find myself on exactly that person. And the way to do that, and this is like, again, the thing that I'm so passionate about, people, is your inputs drive all of your outputs. So it became so clear to me that my habits of watching crap on TV, whether it was Match of the Day or it's just whatever's on BBC or ITV, just like doom scrolling shit, some stuff on Netflix or whatever, just like mindlessly whatever. How about I change that for like Audible and some books? And if I do that, what kind of, what book should I read? And how should I feed my algorithm? And I became really interested in this, right? I started to really deliberately, consciously think about, what am I letting into my brain? And one of the problems you have on social media, so I came off social media for a while, but then I realized, for my mental health, but I realized it was a better approach, which is, no, social media can be a force for good. I just need to edit my social media. I'm choosing to let bad stuff in all the time, and it's very addictive. What if I get addicted to positive stuff on social media? Like, you are a great social media follow, but you're a perfect example of a great social media follow. Like, if I land on your content, I know I'm going to smile. That's just a fact. And there's lots of people on social media where I know if I land on their content, things will be positive. And so I made a whole bunch of conscious choices like literally inside a week. I went and edited my whole Twitter feed, my Instagram feed. I went on, there's an amazing book called, and like artists and stuff, his name's David McCandless. He does Information is Beautiful and Beautiful News. I made it my homepage. Every single day, my homepage now is just like, and still, data visualizations about how the world's getting better, right? So the first thing I see when I go on my laptop is like a visualization about, oh, look, like less people have malaria today. Oh, look, like, child like mortality is going down. All of these things, like positive news stories, visualized well. Go on social media, and now my feed is positive. Listen to whatever I'm going to put in my ears on a book and go for a walk is going to feed my brain into becoming a better person. All of these things compounded extremely quickly, right? Within about a month, I was like a much more curious, conscious person than the person a month ago. And it makes sense because the things I'm letting into my life, like, again, thinking about this stuff is like a great filter. Taking a really conscious choice, which I think not enough people do. What are you filtering into your life? How conscious are you? And we can't do it with everything, right? Because you have friends, you have toxic people in your life. It's usually called family. But like, you have these things that'll like drag you back down to the shit you don't want to do. Okay, and some people have, such incredible tolerance and decency to just let that stuff happen to them in their life because they don't want to have a difficult conversation and they're just going to let it happen. Fine. But in all the areas where you really can honestly say you have agency, then why don't you do something about it? And I just made such a great conscious choice to make sure that my inputs really started driving my outputs. And guess what? By like suddenly just seeing positive stuff on social media, following positive people, seeing positive information, like very quickly I just became a positive person. Like things became positive because my inputs were driving my outputs. And so I think this is a massively important area that people can really, really get behind. It's why I love your products, genuinely. Like, they are all about manifesting and thinking about how to create more positivity and change in your life. These things are not just possible, but they're quick to happen.
Yeah.
And they just take habits and determination.
One of my favorite statements that I refer to often now is what you appreciate appreciates.
Yep.
And that is for good or for bad.
Totally.
So whatever you're appreciating, whatever you're giving attention to will rise.
Yeah.
And everything you just mentioned is how you can create that intelligent change in your life for the good if you choose to. If you choose to have, if you want to have a more delightful experience. One of the things, and you're dropping a lot of F-bombs in this podcast.
Apologies.
We're talking psychedelics, ayahuasca. So let's just go there, right?
Are you gonna have to edit? Are you gonna be like, oh, this was the children's channel. This was going on. Sorry.
No. We'll keep it all in. And I'll...
Am I the first person to swear on your podcast?
No.
Spiritual people don't do that. I'm not that far enough in my spiritual journey to have let go of them. I'm still English.
Yeah. No, but the thing that I've learned on my ayahuasca experience, I also did it a long time ago, probably over 14 years ago, is that in this reality, there is no actually good or bad. And that's very triggering to many people, right? Because of course there's bad, of course there's good. The realization for me was it just is.
Yep.
And you have to accept the good and the bad that comes with life. Mm-hmm. Your opportunities, what do you want to focus on? What do you want to experience in this thing called life? Which I believe is the ultimate psychedelic trip and journey that we're on.
Yeah.
And the thing
Plus, it's all a simulation.
And one of the things that I will kind of add to our conversation is the biggest learning that I also had another psychedelic, which is, I tried LSD for the first time.
It's the best
in my life.
It's so great, isn't it?
I don't, with ayahuasca or acid or anything, I actually don't recommend it.
Yeah, interesting.
To most people. I do believe you have to have...
I mean, ayahuasca is not something that anyone recommends, like, lightly. It's like, if you need it, that's different.
But the reason I say the warning, because when you say that, hey, it's great, it can be great. Again,
of course.
Like
life. Like life. 100%.
Life can be great, but it can be very challenging.
100%. But do you recommend life?
Well, of course.
Well, there you go.
But
go and recommend LSD down the lens.
The reason why I bring it up is that what LSD taught me was, in a way, it was this condensed experience of life, which is hyperactive, super stimulated, very fast responsive, where life is a little slower as responsive. Where I think when you take things like acid, you kind of speed things up and you saturate things to a whole next level. And the learning for me in that experience was, obviously being a founder of Intelligent Change and using and creating products like the 5-Minute Journal, is that just the way you impact your trip of life is by guiding it to a certain thing that you want to experience. So for us, what I realized after that journey is that this is what Intelligent Change does. We help and to guide and design for you to have a better, more positive trip. Right? That's what we do. So let's say even our affirmation cards or our motivational reminders, or the 5-Minute Journal, or any of these tools, or our productivity planner, they're all there to just help you navigate life, to bring out more of the good. Because my mission here is to help you see the beauty of this trip and journey that we're on.
Yeah.
And as we said, it can be very dark. It can be very challenging. There will be things along the way. However, it's all about how you navigate these things and go through with it. And I found this out, of course, through my own journey of life, through having those big challenges of losing my father, through being poor, broke, not having money, be like, hey, how do I create it? And all of a sudden, as you said, hey, your word is money, finance, and you choose to focus in, and over time you have those rituals and you compound it, you do become a millionaire if you choose to do it. Same thing, I will shift the conversation also to your business in kind of the next topic, because I do believe the way you build a great life, great relationships, a great business, is by having a certain focus and then follow through with the daily rituals to having it there. It sounds simple. However, most people don't want to do it because oftentimes we don't get the response of the signal right away.
Well, and also it is super boring.
What's
It just
boring?
is. It sounds boring. It is boring. You know, pre-AI, because we both started our businesses pre-AI, like, Jesus Christ, the amount of admin and boredom in starting a business. Not necessarily then in like the scaling part, but just the starting, all the paperwork and things, it's just boring. And the only thing that gets you through is the fact that anything that you start is exciting. But there's tons of boredom. And actually, yeah, like, you know, falling in love with the boring daily repetition is so important. Someone actually said to me the other day, which was I thought was super interesting. I don't actually agree, but I thought it was a really excellent point to make me think, which is if your marketing, so in growing a brand, if your marketing team is really bored of what you're doing, you're probably doing a great job because you're probably being really consistent in your message. You know, and that's like quite boring to like constantly reinforce the same message in many different ways and stuff. It's not the most creatively freeing thing to do. Now, I don't broadly agree, but I thought that was actually an excellent point because there's a lot of truth to it, right? And actually, you know, with a lot of this stuff, it's like consistency. You know, how many times do you need to repeat the same thing before someone actually takes it on board and understands it? And to do that, you need a lot of repetition. And what is repetition? It's bloody boring.
Yeah. Well, moving to from this very, very conversation, I do want to finish up to talk about your business,
Yep.
Heights.
Yep.
And it's beyond just you plugging your products and things like that. I believe it's a very important example, again, of how do you align yourself with the challenges that you may experience in life, and how do you create solutions to those problems and then be able to build a business around it. And this is the reason why I
Which
also
is a dream.
which is, I think, a dream for many, because many people, including you in the past or me, we would start businesses like, hey, I just want to make money, so let's just do it. However, I believe that the way to really create that rocket fuel and explode your life and your business is to actually align your business with something that you're maybe a deep issue at the moment in your life, and how do you actually solve that issue, and then how you can help to solve that issue for others and create value not only for yourself but also for other people. So yeah, go ahead.
I completely agree. And I also would say that when it's super boring, my God, does that help? Right? Like knowing why you do what you do, when it's so boring and repetitive, is an incredibly quick reinforcement message to yourself to just get out of that negative state, because you really deeply empathize with your why because you lived it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for me, you know, I talked about my multiple mental health challenges. The most challenging one I ever had was insomnia. And it was especially frustrating because I had already, I thought, cured so many of my other mental health problems by doing all the habits and all the things. So I was so frustrated because I've done it. I am doing gratitude. I've done, I found God. You know, I listened to this miserable guy talk to me about positive psychology, and I've now read all the books, got great daily habits, going for a walk every day, I'm eating healthy, I go to the gym, I'm happy, I was engaged, I'm doing all the things. I speak to my mum all the time, I've got fluffy cats, there's nothing else in my life I want more, and then suddenly I got insomnia. So I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? This is so absurd. So I was deeply frustrated. And actually, I'd say it was a very humbling experience, because what I felt then, by the way, was I've solved mental health by doing all the right things. And I now, because that experience alone, even though it's been a while since I've had it, I haven't really had mental health problems since then, by the way. But the difference between me now, so the last time I had a mental health problem was, and I remember it vividly, was a panic attack. I had it about 5 years ago. And I remembered it so vividly because it had been a year since my last panic attack, and I used to have panic attacks every day. And so the last time I had one, I was like, oh my God, it's been a year. So like, instead of being so annoyed, I'm like, this is great. I used to deal with this every day. And then that was the last time I've had anything major. And the helpful thing about my insomnia is I know that it doesn't necessarily mean that's how I'll always be. I now believe that I'm good now. Maybe I'll have a problem in the next year. Maybe I'll have one in 5 years. Like, we are mysterious creatures. The work is never done. Don't have too much hubris. There's a lot going on, and I'm pretty sure that all of this could crumble and I could find myself having to rebuild again. And so I think that's really helpful to have also had that insightful experience myself. So having this insomnia experience, it really threw me. I didn't sleep for 6 months. It was absolutely horrendous. I tried many different things, psychologists, psychiatrists, psychedelics, whiskey, weed, you name it, like what a doctor told me to do, what a doctor told me not to do, like anything I could possibly do to go to sleep, but it just didn't happen. And the only thing I was given was like sleeping pills, which I didn't want to take medication for it because I knew that's not going to solve a problem. And in the end, after 6 months, I had dinner with a friend and she said, sounds like you've got a brain health problem. You should go and see a dietitian. And I was like, I don't know what a dietitian is, but okay. And I just went on the NHS, and this lady was like, because I was able to say I've done all of this other stuff, she was very quick for her. She was like, well, it sounds like you've explored everything psychologically, but your body is biology, right? So why don't you try something that's like, nutritionally based? Why don't you try something that might actually help your organ, the brain, versus your psychology of your mind? Because if you're not sleeping, your alarm system is going off and it's telling you that something's wrong. So let's try that. So she recommended DHA omega-3, B vitamins, and blueberry extract specifically as supplements, because for her, she was like, you need the scientific dosages to be really strong, you need high potency, you need fast impact. And I was like, okay, so do I just go to the high street, Holland and Barrett or whatever? And she was like, nope, you won't be able to find the quality there. You have to go to Whole Foods or Planet Organic. And I was like, I run a startup, I don't shop in Whole Foods, but okay, I'll do it this time. Actually, I lived in Camden at the time, so I went to Planet Organic, and I spent £120 on 3 supplements. And I was like, I had no idea supplements were that expensive, but okay. And I took them, and on the second day, I was asleep all the way through the night for the first time in months, and my mind was blown. I'm obviously scared the next night that's not going to be the case, is again. And just throughout that week, I was sleeping. And I was like, that is so nuts. Like, how does she work that out? And so I obviously got in touch with her and told her she's changed my life and all of this kind of stuff. And she was, more than happy. She was mostly just like frustrated because she was sort of like, I know, like it's frustrating to me that people don't know that nutrition can impact you. So obvious now. With what I know, it's absurd. But the point is, I'm always so empathetic to your regular person on the street, knowing that's how I was, thinking I'm quite informed about things in general. I've done loads of reading at this point, right? I didn't know. I didn't know about nutrients affecting your brain. I never thought that if I had insomnia, it could be like supplements could help me, or just the nutrients in supplements, whether it's supplements or food. It's just really far away from my understanding of what would help me. I thought I had a mental health problem. When I think about mental health, I think about the mind, and therefore I think about psychology and a psychological challenge. And this was, no, your brain is an organ and it's a biological challenge, and it can be very helpfully solved through nutrition. So it really just changed my whole perspective. And I decided that this was something that I cared about so deeply. I was so fascinated. Knowing what I knew about neuroplasticity, I was like, this is the space I want to work in. Somehow, some way. There must be an opportunity here. And I remember her like with the Holland and Barrett thing and like going to Planet Organic, and I was like, that was weird. Like, that was weird. Like, what is that about actually? And I learned, basically supplements is this really odd space where there's an enormous difference between the scientific dosage that you're supposed to take when you're recommended something, and then the minimum amount you can put in and make a claim in marketing. And there is no difference between the worst product in the world and the best product in the world. They both legally have to say the same thing on the front of the label. Supports muscle growth or healthy brain or healthy heart, whatever you see on labels, right? There's no difference of what they can say, and there's no way to prove one's better than the other. You have to be able to turn a label around and understand what you're reading and know how much you're meant to get. So obviously, on the high street, you're talking about products that are price anchored at like 10 quid. And Holland Barrett, you're talking about stuff, and Planet Organic, you're talking about stuff that's like 40 quid per supplement. So you're like, fucking hell, like, why would I spend £40 when I could just spend 10? That's so stupid, they do the same thing. No, you're getting 4 times as much, if not more, in this one. So you're just getting the right amount, and in this one, you're getting the minimum amount you can get away with. So I was like, that is so mental. I could not believe that that's the thing, but it is the thing. This seems like an enormous brand opportunity. If you can create a brand that is like, cool, interesting, modern. People want to give it the time of day. They want to learn about it. They want to get involved in like the marketing comms and stuff. You know, you look at supplement aisles, it's so dry. Everything looks the same. Everything's so boring and so uninspiring. It's just more and more of the same. I was like, that seems like a really good opportunity. And so because of the neuroplasticity thing, I was like, okay, I also had imposter syndrome. I'd had that in my last company. And so I was like, I'm going to have really bad imposter syndrome. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm like, I have no credibility doing this whatsoever. So why would I credibly be doing this business? So I was like, okay, the only way I'm going to be able to get around that myself is if I read science papers every single week and I rewrite them in plain English. So I started a newsletter called Dawn because the night is always darkest before the dawn. You know, and I felt like I'd gone through that experience and the dawn was about to happen for me. And so I started this newsletter where every week I went on to PubMed, Public Medical Records, and I read science papers about the brain and gut because they're connected. And I said, I'm going to rewrite these. And the strapline on the website at the time was very simple. It was like, don't waste time with science. I'll do that for you. And it was like 3 minutes in your inbox every Sunday, science-led stuff to make your brain and gut, to basically make your life better. And I did this every single week, wrote this newsletter. The process of that for me was every single week, I'm going to be the type of person who is reading PubMed. And if I'm reading science, not opinion, but science every single week, it's going to go in my head. And there's a saying in neuroscience, which is when you read something, you learn it once, but when you share it, you learn it twice because you create new neural pathways. So I was like, fantastic. I am going to be creating new neural pathways every single week through this process. I'm going to start to manifest and become the person that I intend to be in a few years when I'm going to stand on stage and have a bigger business and people say, well, why you? I'm going to be able to talk about this process. And I'm not going to have a PhD and I'm not going to be a neuroscientist, but I am going to be someone who's at this point read hundreds and hundreds of science papers, can reference them and speaks really credibly about them. So why not? So that was my commitment to myself about how I'm going to become the person who deserves the right to build this business. And that became the backbone of the company. And what I did that was particularly unique and smart, especially at the time, was when I read these science papers, I would go on Twitter and I would tag people, the scientists who'd written them, and share that I'd written them in the newsletter. And one of the people that I did this with was Dr. Tara Swart, who I know you know. And she, this was, maybe she was just writing the source or the source was just coming out or something, but she wasn't famous. But she was a really great neuroscientist who had a PhD in neuropharmacology. And I was talking about specifically, that means basically the nutrients that your brain needs. So I was obviously obsessed with the nutrients your brain needs. I'd come across her research, I tweeted her, and then we got into like a Twitter conversation. I shared the newsletter. She was like, I love this. She signed up. She started reading more. She was like, this is great. We're having like emails back and forth. I said, do you want to meet up in Soho, go for a coffee, talk about the brain? She was like, yeah, that sounds great. So we literally met up in Soho House and I started talking to her about like these ideas I've got and stuff. And, wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't that be cool? And she was like, I've actually come up with this kind of idea before for like a product, which basically is exactly what became Vitals. So fast forward the story a lot. She became our chief science officer. She formulated our first product, Vitals, which is still our best-selling product. The idea was like, let's reinvent the multivitamin. It is like a totally outdated category. Like no one's put any thought in it. It would have omega-3s. It would have B vitamins. It would have antioxidants, all the things that would improve my brain. It's all on the things that her PhD said these would absolutely affect your brain, make you feel better. And so, I didn't have to worry either about being an uncredible person doing this. I was like, you literally have the PhD of this. If anyone should have the credibility to do this, it's you. That turned out to be a very fortuitous partnership, obviously, because she wrote the source, she became more popular, she went on Diary of a CEO, she became very popular, she now has another best-selling book. That was just good luck, and we've become obviously such good friends since. But luck is just, as Seneca said, like where preparation meets opportunity. And I think this was a good example of it, right? And so over time, building up an audience on this newsletter and creating these products, well, this one product, and we had another product, which is a probiotic in development for many years. And it all led to, building a company that I then launched in January 2020, which was, as many writers often say, the best of times and worst of times, very Charles Dickens. But it started off terribly in many ways, right? First 6 months of COVID was horrendous for everyone. And then actually to be in the health space for the second half of 2020 in England was actually quite exciting because for the first time ever, people were interested in having some personal agency over their health. That's not really a culturally English thing. And that's my fast-forwarded version of how we got to that.
Yeah, one of the things that I loved, because as you know, the way we got introduced is to when you're raising one of your
Yeah.
rounds, and I loved the importance of design
Yes.
to your product.
I
Because
can see that I can see you love the importance of design. That's stunning in here. Yeah.
yeah, but one of the things that I really related to, and this is also one of the reasons why our products, especially like the 5 Minute Journal, are successful,
I agree.
which, like you said, is that if if the product is not beautiful, people are not going to want to have it out.
Yep.
Whether it be, let's say, the reason the people do judge the book by its cover, and the reason why we do our best to create beautiful covers
Mm.
is that we want, let's say, the 5 Minute Journal or the Life Designer to be displayed, whether
Yep.
it be on your coffee table or on your
100%.
bedside table, so that it's something that's beautiful that represents you and who
And
you
it's
are.
viral word of mouth.
Yeah, and that you want to use. And one of the things that you said to me in regards to your product is like, you can tell me more about, you actually went to a great length of, to the design of the product, to display. Talk to us more about why the design of the product and the packaging was so important to you.
So, a very important thing to say, and I think this is great advice for entrepreneurs that do have imposter syndrome, that outside of category. We did not know anything about the supplement category. So, me and my business partner, Joel, did not know anything about this space. And I think that is super duper helpful for us because that naivety meant that we had to learn about it by doing customer interviews the traditional way, go and interview people. What are their habits? What do they do? What supplements they take? Why they take them? What's your reason? Can you show me where you keep them? And the things that we learned were people have supplement cupboards and they have these drawers, and the supplements go in the drawers, they go in these cupboards. And they make all of these promises to themselves, particularly in January, and they say, I'm going to become the person that takes supplements every day. I know I should and I want to. But then come February, they're not taking them anymore. So we're like, well, why not? I wasn't taking supplements until I had my issue, right? So until I had my insomnia, like it just wasn't a thing for me. So it's very weird to me to hear someone say, I take supplements because I care, but not enough to remember to do it. And I'm like, well, how much do you care then? You don't care that much. Like that's weird. Like I never forgot to take my supplements because like my sleep depended on it, right? So I was like, that wasn't gonna be something I forgot. But we'd hear it all the time. Everyone would just say it. So we were like, God, that is just such an interesting, repeatable problem. So because you put things out of sight, they're out of mind. And because you have to take so many supplements, people are like, I take my vitamin D, my omega-3, my multivitamin over here, like all that kind of stuff. Because suddenly there's lots of bottles. And now they open the supplement cupboard and they see like the cupboard of like the broken promises from January. So many of them, it's like a graveyard, right? Of all your broken promises to yourselves. You're like, oh God, no. It's not even just one thing I need to take to make myself feel better right now. It's like, it's 3, it's 4, suddenly it's faffy. And if you're not the type of person who is in pursuit of perfection, like Brian Johnson or whatever, the idea of taking that many things is going to be off-putting to you. You're just going to get out of a habit and you end up taking none of them. We saw this all the time. We did 200 customer interviews. This was like the most common behavior. So Joel and I were just like, that's really interesting. Why don't we go to Selfridges and go to the perfume department? Because in perfume, the job is beautiful bottle, amazing design, keep it out. It's got to fight for its place. Yes, they smell amazing and all of that stuff, but like ultimately, best bottle wins. That gets pride of place. So we're like, why has no one done that in supplements? That seems so obvious. Design something that's uniquely yours, that's practical, that's helpful and stuff, but it's beautiful and can pass like essentially a wife test, right? They're like, they don't mind you keeping it out. Most common place someone's going to keep that out is by their bedside table. The other one is by their desk at work. Those are the two places people really keep them out. If you're going to fight for space on a beautifully curated and designed thing, it has to look like it belongs. And that insight it was like probably our first insight in the business. Super practical and logical to us by asking why and getting to that interesting thing about habits. But I think it's one of the best insights we've had in the whole entire business because our retention rate, we're a subscription company, all of our products are a monthly subscription, they come through your letterbox. Our retention rate is the best in the whole entire industry still that we can see. We go to these like private equity and banking type conferences that give you like the data and show you our retention metrics are better than all of them. And obviously for that you need products that are efficacious and work. But I always say to people, the most effective supplement is the one you remember to take every day. When people are like, hey, I already take the stack, and like, should I switch to yours? And I'm like, well, how are you feeling? They're like, I feel great. I'm like, you remember to take them every day? Yeah. I'm like, well, then why would you change? You know, if you change that, you've got loads of good habits and you feel great. If you change that to ours and then something bad happens, I'll feel responsible. I'm not desperate for your 40 pounds as much as you think I am. So, you know, I'd rather, if that's you, keep doing what you're doing. But most people actually fall into the other place where like, I'm not really sure if they're working and also I forget to take them. Well, in that case, they're not going to be effective. So that design hack is so important. And I think also just, you know, the selection of all of these things are really conscious, right? Heights, you know, so many of these brands that, you know, exist in the space are all very functional, right? We're all about this, you know, it comes from my own personal experience as well, right? But I was in a really, really dark place and I wanted to get to a better place and I want to reach my heights. As a person in life, I'm very intentional about the choices I make and how I can reach my heights. Nutrition is just one way to get there. And actually, I think the thing that's really unique about us compared to others is I'm also a busy person and I know that if I make something hard and faffy, I'm not going to do it. So are there better protocols and products than ours? 100%. Like, you know, I get asked so commonly, like, should I take yours or Blueprint? I'm like, hey, listen, if you're in pursuit of perfection, take Blueprint. You know, you can do like 40 pills a day. More power to you. I got shit to do. Like, Brian Johnson's life is taking those pills. So like, that's kind of like part of his job. But like, I'm not going to sit around taking 40 pills. I'm not going to stir your potions. I'm just about get my protein shake going. I just like don't have time for all this faff. I know myself. I know I'll get out of the habit if I make that hard for me. So like simplicity is so important to us. And I think simplicity and design, you know, they go hand in hand so well. So I think that's where we made some really conscious early choices. Brand name, what it evokes, a purposeful, you know, destination. You know, it's a journey, like to get there. And it's like actually about being really like forgiving and understanding that wherever you are on your journey, there's a better place. And also making sure that the way that we fulfill the space in your life is actually not like the 5-minute journal. The 5-minute journal is about spending time, being conscious, spending 5 minutes. We're about like, hey, can we help you get all the nutrients you need today so that you can achieve all those great things in 1 second? Like, we don't need you to spend ages with us. That's actually the opposite of the job we're trying to do. We're trying to make your life super easy so you can crack on and do those things for sure. So I think that's the other final part of it, right, for building a brand is truly owning and understanding the customer behavior that you're trying to drive. For Heights, it's absolutely about simplicity. Like, I genuinely think that where we win customers and keep them is that we're not trying to spend too long in their life, but we are a daily feature in their life. And that's actually more than enough for us.
Yeah, same. No, the reason this is so powerful to the point anybody starting a business is the most complicated thing to do is to actually create something simple. And the success also for us of the 5-minute journal, as we're also a daily ritual to, you know, so many people around the world, is this idea of also, yes, 5 minutes sounds like a lot compared to your 1 second of popping a pill of Heights. To myself, I'm not actually a journaler. So I'll read, let's say, Martin Seligman, Positive Psychology, you should journal. But I'm like, how? I'm like, I don't want to journal for like an hour. I got like
totally.
5 minutes. So to your point as well, the success of our products have also been, and the ones which are most successful, which is still the 5-minute journal,
Yeah.
is because people know like, hey, I have 5 minutes, and we always refer to it like, this is the toothbrush for your mind.
100%.
You know, you brush your teeth every morning and night. Hey, take 3 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes at night, just to do a little quick journal, list 3 things that you're grateful for. You can do it in like less than 2 to 3 minutes.
100%.
Each one. It will take you 5 minutes overall in the whole day.
Honestly, when my daughter does it, by the way, it's super quick. She goes, Spider-Man, Green Goblin, Green Goblin. I think I told you this. I brought her the 5-minute, the kids' journal, and then I was really excited to do it with her. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited to teach her about gratitude. And then she's like, Green Gobby, Spider-Man, grateful for Spider-Man. I was like, all right, we're going to wait.
But hey, it's at the same time, it's
I'm grateful for Spider-Man, sure.
It's fun, but one habit that I recommend for you to do with your daughter, like I said, it doesn't even have to do with the 5-minute journal, is, you know, the evening portion we have, you know, for grown-ups, it's kind of like, you know, 3 amazing things that happened today, which was the original.
Yeah.
Then English people said, well, there's nothing amazing ever happening in my life.
Yeah.
So it can't be amazing.
Yeah.
So we just put highlights of the day. Okay.
I love that. That's so funny.
Because there was a lot of complaints from British people. Like,
100%.
there's nothing amazing in my life. We're like, okay, well, highlights. What were the good things that happened today? And if you ask your daughter before, is what I do with my daughter, is before she goes to sleep, let the last thought of her day be, hey, what was the highlight of your day today? Like, what was, or to a kid, it can be, what's one amazing thing? And you are, imagine how you're building up and reiterating in her mind, because for me, for example, because people often ask me, hey, do you use the 5-minute journal every day? The reality is I don't. I often travel, right? Yes, I can use the app, things like that. However, I've been able to ingrain the habit of
Yeah, for
gratitude,
sure.
which is the moment I wake up, if I don't do the right thing when I awake, when I get into the shower, that'll be my anchor of when I'll say like, hey, I'm really grateful to be healthy, to be alive, whatever that will come to mind in terms of my gratitude. So for your child at a young age to do this one simple habit of even just reminding them of like, hey, what's one good thing that happened today?
Yeah, I love that.
What it does is
And then she says
anchors.
Spider-Man.
She can say Spider-Man then, but it just will create and build that muscle of hers
Yeah.
and that neuroplasticity in her brain, that the thought in the future, even one day when you'll be gone, she might remember that ability
100%.
of, hey, with my dad, I used to practice and he used to remind me of like, what's one good thing that happened today? And that'll be her last thought before she goes to sleep.
Yeah, I love that.
So we're with intelligent change, we're all about how do we help you create these positive rituals and habits that'll help guide your mind towards seeing the beauty of life. We can go on for hours with you. I think we're gonna need a part two.
Sure.
Because there's so many more things that we need to discuss. Our love for Cape Town, our love for
Yeah, if we get a crossover, we could do it right at the top of the
we
mountain
should,
when we did it last time.
I
Yeah.
think we should lifestyle design and everything else. Yeah, because you were requesting, you were like, why am we in your living room in London with lights? We should be in an epic background somewhere like South Africa.
Yeah.
Dan, I just want to say that I'm very grateful for you to be here. And the last thing that we'll do, the last question is, I'll get you to pick out a question from our Get Closer deck. So we have 3 levels. So there's close, closer, and closest. This is the more spicy one.
Oh, I love spice. Let's do it.
Okay, let's go.
You sure it doesn't say closet?
Okay.
Oh, have I ever stolen anything? Immediate memory is yes. I remember it's so interesting you asked this because immediate memory from my childhood comes back.
Yeah.
So like obviously yes.
Yeah.
I was
As all entrepreneurs.
yeah, I mean totally. I was 6 or 7 and I remember going into a newsagent and I stole a Snickers. I was with my mum, but I stole a Snickers. I was at the bar or whatever, and I just took it. And I went back out into the car, and I felt so excited about the fact that I'd done it. And then suddenly I was just so intensely racked by guilt. Immediately, I knew that I'd done something so wrong. And the thrill went away immediately. And I immediately owned up to my mum, who was obviously mortified, but also quite happy that I'd owned up. And we went back and I gave it back. And yeah, I mean, I don't have ever stolen anything ever since. Obviously, I had such an adverse reaction to it. I remember like hyperventilating. It was just so unnatural to me. So no, I'm a very, that was a really good early lesson.
Yeah, I think so. I'll share mine as well. I'm not just gonna just put you on the spot.
Yeah, go on.
For me, similar situation. I was a 7-Eleven. I was probably 11, 12 years old, and it was actually accidental. So I packed some candy. I stepped out of the 7-Eleven and I realized, oh, I never paid for it. And so there's this thing, exact thing, like at first like excitement, oh, I got this for free, but then it's like intense guilt
Yeah.
of like, oh, I've done it, and I still kept on going because I'm like, oh, I've never had free candy before.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel sometimes these experiences of doing something bad and being aware of how it makes us feel, because feelings and emotions are also guides to help us understand towards where we should be going and what do you want to experience more of in your life. And yeah, so being
Yeah,
more
does this make me feel good or bad? And that made me feel bad.
exactly, and the
Yeah.
same thing connects, I think, even with business, like what we're speaking about before, is that are you delivering value to people?
Mm.
Is your product benefiting and making people's lives better? And even today, someone asked me like, "How do you grow your business to this day?" To me, it's still word of mouth.
Mm.
It's literally people going out, experiencing our product, and wanting to tell other people how this product has changed their life. And I'm sure it is with you when
Yeah.
people feel the effects of heights and what it does for them. So I just want to commend you for doing good, for not having such bad habits anymore.
We are very lucky.
Yeah,
Like, we're both very lucky because we do run similar businesses in that they're daily practices that people do bi-monthly, and they are like things that we're super proud of to put into the world. And it's hard to find that. Like, it's super hard to find that. And you know, that's like basically everyone's dream. You can often have the first two, but to find the thing that people do daily, so you can actually build a really meaningful business that makes an impact in people's lives like that, that's quite rare. And so I think we're both extremely lucky to find things where we actually have done that.
yeah, for sure. And we're very grateful for everybody listening or watching this all the way through. If you're here, you're a superstar. So thank you so much. Make sure to reach out to me or Dan online. Where can people find you? What's the
You
best
can
way? And
find
your
me
company.
on, so Heights is heights.com.
Great
And
domain.
so chuffed with the domain. And you can find me at Dan Murray S on all social:
Perfect.
Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram.
Or in Cape Town in the winter. So.
Find me in Cape Town in January, yeah.
All right. See
Dude,
you.
thank you.
Thanks.